Okay, just going over a few examples on 3.3. For the first couple of exercises or problems, it says find the value of x that makes line L parallel to line N, and then explain your reasoning. So here's a thought process that you should go through. For lines M and N, two angles are given, one in terms of the degree measure, one in terms of an algebraic expression. Those angles are corresponding angles. And then we really have to use the corresponding angles theorem converse, not just the corresponding angles theorem, because we don't know that the lines are parallel. But the converse states if the corresponding angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So that's explaining my reasoning. I just didn't write it down on my paper here. But then we could set up the equation. 95 is equal to 8x plus 55, and then solve it for x. We could subtract 55 from each side. 95 minus 55 is 40. That's equal to 8x. I divide each side by 8, then x is equal to 5. And you can even go back and double check. 8 times 5 here is 40, plus 55 is 95. Those corresponding angles are congruent. And then on number 2, these are alternate exterior angles. So the alternate exterior angles theorem converse states if the alternate exterior angles are congruent, then the lines have to be parallel. So I could set up the equation 200 minus 2x is equal to 130, and then go through and solve that. Subtract 200 from each side. It's negative 2x is equal to 130 minus 200 is negative 70. If I divide each side by negative 2, then x would equal 35. And then I can go back as well and check that. It should check. And the next few exercises, it says decide whether there's enough information to prove that line M is parallel to line N. If so, state the theorem that you would use. So on number 3, these two angles, even though there's no little tick mark in there, this is showing that those two angles are congruent. Those are corresponding angles. Therefore, line N is parallel to line M by the corresponding angles theorem converse. Again, you have to have converse in there. If you just say corresponding angles converse, that's fine. I'll say corresponding angles theorem converse, but keyword there, converse. Because if you just said corresponding angles theorem, that already says that the lines are parallel. We're not using that. All right, and then on number 4, if you notice these two angles are congruent, those two angles are vertical angles. Yes, vertical angles are congruent, but that doesn't ensure that lines M and N are parallel. If these two angles are congruent, I could even exaggerate my drawing a little bit. Here's M, here's R, and then N could be like this. These two angles would still be congruent because they're vertical angles, but that doesn't make M and N parallel to each other. Here, if I extended line N, it would intersect line N, so there's not enough information. No, they're not parallel, or just not enough information. So that should give you a pretty good idea on how to get started with problems on 3.3.